welcome back to Seat at My Table. Today I am really excited to be joined by Em Stroud.
Hello.
Hello. And so I would like to do an introduction, but it might take me a while, so I'll give it a go, and I'm going to miss loads of things off. So I think you're one of the most multifaceted people I've ever met. But obviously you have your shows. The Em Show, Tales of a Little Laughing Lesbian. Love the name.
Thank you.
And then you do those other creative things. I know you're moving to TV, you're writing a book, podcast, and then you then have the business side of things as well, where you advise leadership teams, you're a keynote speaker. I also found out recently you do retreats, which is interesting. And then you're also moving into the world of setting up a school, which I would love to also dive into today. And I'm sure so many other things, obviously comedian, making the world laugh. But one thing that I always like to start off my podcast with is actually putting it back onto you and just asking, how do you describe yourself in 3 words?
Oh, it's a good starting one. I think I would describe myself as energetic, playful, odd.
I love that.
Thanks.
And I think it's nice to embrace oddness.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think life is more exciting when you allow yourself to be odd.
Yeah. And, I don't really know any other way of being, and I realise that the older I've got, that quite often I find myself in places and I am definitely not the norm. And as I've got older, I've become more and more comfortable just going, okay, this is me, this is Em, and this is how I roll.
And I bet actually the more you lean into that, the more you've attracted people to you as well.
Oh, completely.
Because it gives other people the permission to do the same.
Yeah.
So I'd actually love to know, and was just going straight to the beginning, because obviously now you're so focused on being playful and creating joy and asking others to actually allow themselves to feel joy. But has that always been the case when you go back to younger Em?
No, not at all. I think I've sort of, in essence, almost lived my life in reverse. And I think when I was, so up until the age of 10, everything was really good for me. And it was like, lived in a nice house in Surrey and everything else like that. And then my dad died when I was 10. And my mum, to put it in a very lovely British way, was not particularly great post my dad dying for various reasons, and just her personality type and things like that. So from 10 onwards, I think I made that decision that I'm going to become an adult. Obviously I was 10, so you shouldn't really be making that decision. And I found myself sort of minimizing me, becoming smaller, and trying desperately to fit with whatever my mum needed me to do while we navigated our life together. So I didn't play, and I wasn't particularly joyful. And I always kind of look back and as those years in this big yellow house, because it was a big yellow house that I lived in. I don't know why it was yellow. Still unsure about that, but it was big and yellow. And those years were not easy in any way, shape or form. And when I was eventually kicked out of home, when I was sort of 16, 17, suddenly I realised I was like, well, I'm all by myself. I was lucky. I had friends' parents who could see who I was, and they were super kind. So I had places to go and stay and do the whole kind of, I can come and stay here and stay there. But I really wasn't playful in any way, shape or form, because I was surviving. And yes, I still had the privilege. I was still going to a very good school, which I'm grateful for in many, many ways. But then as I've become older, it was almost like I need to reconnect to what is joy, what is play. And I think without knowing it, I think that was kind of always going to be my path.
Yeah.
And when I found myself doing very kind of grown-up serious things, somehow I just didn't feel quite right. So I can truthfully say it's been the last 6-7 years, after lots of therapy, lots of coaching, lots of healing, lots of weird stuff, that I'm in that place where I'm like, genuinely, as I sit here now, if I look back on my 17-year-old self, I'd just be like, oh, it's going to be okay. And you're going to remember to find the joy and find the light, because when stuff has been really dark and really hard, I think it's really important to make sure that you do then find the light and find the joy. And now that's kind of why I'm me.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I think sometimes people get scared about getting older because they think you have to become more serious and but what I've seen, I mean, even with my own parents, it's almost as though you stop caring as much as well. And you see them actually kind of, if you're lucky enough, lean more into that because you stop caring about other people's opinions and, it can go the other way, but of course. But thank you for sharing that. Obviously, so you had to have such a hard time, but I also think that it's beautiful that you've created this life out of it, and you're also actively trying to unlock joy for other people. So it's not just that you found joy for yourself, it's that you're so actively trying to make sure other people find that, because I guess...
Because life's too short, right? And so, yeah, you know, in my 20s, I definitely experienced times where it was really dark. And so for me, I think having experienced that and then seeing how you can actually shift and you can change and you can find joy and you can find moments, and that actually is the thing that really fuels me. And I see so many adults, we become so serious. Yeah. And it's like, actually, this isn't a rehearsal. And if every day we let ourselves just have little moments of joy, that's as true as the stressful moments. Yeah. But we're not taught this. We're not taught to do this. We're taught, go get a job, be very serious, do that, have a house. And then once you've done that, have kids, don't have kids. And then once you've done that, then you can then have time for the fun stuff. And I'm like, nah. Yeah. No, let's change that. Let's change that narrative.
Because then people sometimes never get to the fun stuff.
No.
Yeah. And what I find really interesting there is obviously you've touched on points that are so deeply ingrained in society. So, you know, we're brought up saying you need to act a certain way, you need to do certain things, you need to get a job. Obviously, we spoke a bit about this before starting this podcast. And it becomes so ingrained that we almost go on autopilot. If anyone strays outside of that, it panics us a bit because we're like, okay, well, what's going to happen now? So I would love to talk a bit more about how you unwound those beliefs. And I listened to your TED Talk actually as well. And, you know, you spoke about actually having a legacy of negative kind of beliefs and thought patterns from, see, the really tough time when you were growing up. What sort of work did you do to actually unwind that? Because obviously so many people don't know where to start.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was a mixture and a lot of it was completely unintentional. You know, if I sort of really look back, the start of it was for me going to drama school. And I'm not suggesting that everybody has to go to drama school, but what you do when you're at drama school, and for me and my own experience of it was, I went there because I wanted to carry on getting really good at pretending to be other people so that people wouldn't know who Em was. I was like, if I get really good at pretending, nobody will have to know who I am because I'm a bit broken, I'm not lovable, and all of those kind of things. And then once I got to drama school, suddenly it was like, oh no, to actually be a good actor, you actually have to know who you are. And I was like, what is this? What is this nightmare? I do not want this. This is terrible. And that was the start of me going, okay, you have to put the work in. And the thing is, there isn't a magic pill that anybody can take to change our thought processes, to change our beliefs, to change what it is. But for me, it was that thing of, you got to have the courage of just holding up the mirror and going, okay, so who are you? And I think once I started to realise that the more I started to ask that question, what makes me tick? What doesn't make me tick? Then I started to explore, okay, I'm going to go and learn a bit about coaching. So I went and trained as a coach. And the thing is, again, if you train to be as a coach, you again are asked questions. You have to do the work yourself. And so I've always had this, I don't know whether it's partly my ADHD or just my slight boredom, but I love going off and being really curious and finding different things. And I think for me, the main thing was allowing myself to really hear my own voice. And the thing is that we're bombarded. I mean, the irony, we're doing a podcast, you know, so all your listeners are listening to this. We're other voices in your head right now. So for that, but you have to be really mindful about who are you letting in. And I think in a world of tech, in a world where we're so interconnected all the time, I think quite often we don't hear our own clarity. And actually, there's a courage in shutting everything down, and whether it's journaling, whether it's just literally going for a walk with nothing and just kind of going, how am I? That's the simple things that we can do. And when you pay attention to that, suddenly you're like, oh, today I feel a bit sad. And then you can work out why. And then from that, you can move stuff.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I find myself sometimes when something's not quite right, you make yourself more busy so you don't have to deal with it. And there's also this fear, if you actually sit long enough and get to know yourself long enough, I think sometimes there's a fear that you won't like yourself. Sometimes there's a fear that you'll realise, oh shit, I'm actually doing the wrong thing. This is not what my soul wants. This is not deeply what I want. I'm in this career, but I would rather be doing X other things. But if I actually acknowledge that, then maybe I'll have to take action. And that's the scary part. And so I think a lot of people push it off. And the sad thing is some people never give themselves that chance to take that scary step and find out what they want.
And you don't have to do, and this is the thing, once you've acknowledge that something wants to change, it doesn't mean that it has to change there and then, but you've made that acknowledgement that you're like, oh, okay, something's not right. So I had a business partner for 15 years and I knew probably for the last couple of years that it wasn't quite right. But it took me a couple of years, and it took me having a coach to make me go, actually, I think I'm in a place where I want to change. And sometimes it's just about the acknowledgement, and then as soon as you've acknowledged it, gentle little things will start to shift. And I remember there's an amazing guy called Gay Hendricks, and he's written a ridiculous amount of books, but one of the books that really resonated with me was a book called The Big Leap. And he basically talks about operating your zone of genius. And he realised, and this genuinely changed my path, he realised that he was teaching at a university and he wanted to help the world be happier. And he was teaching therapists and coaches, which is amazing. But he realised he was only going to hit sort of 30, 40 people a year. So he realised that he wanted to become a writer and write full time. But to leave the world of academia and then to become a full-time writer, that was going to take time. And I think he said it took him about 5 years to do it. Since then, I mean, he's prolific. I think he's in his late 70s now. I think he's written a book every year. I think he's written something like 40 books. And at one point, Power of Oprah Winfrey, pre-internet, he was selling like 100,000 copies a book a week. That's pre the internet. That's called Oprah Winfrey on telly. But the key thing for me about that was when you acknowledge that something doesn't feel right, it doesn't mean that then has to change tomorrow. And I think people are like, I need to change stuff. I've got to change it right now. And it's like, no. Kind and gentle. You know, it took me 2.5 years to not be working with my business partner and set myself up and do things from a different perspective in my own way. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's about just taking that breath and kind of going, okay, yeah, that's not really working for me. Or I don't like how I'm looking right now. Okay, so I'm going to do something about it, but I'm going to do it gently. Or I don't like the way I'm thinking about something. Okay, maybe I'll just change it gently rather than like, must change right now, must do it really quickly. Because again, it's like slow down. The more I slow, which is ironic for someone that's so energetic, the more I slow down, the more clarity I have.
Yeah, I think that's such good advice. And it's just so funny how people almost, because they would be so harsh on themselves, they don't even want to confront it, but actually it's so much better to go slowly and actually do it than not do it at all because you can't do it fast. And it's funny how we choose the latter when we could actually just be kinder to ourselves. And that's also something that you said in your TED talk actually and elsewhere, and when I heard you speak at Women in Payments, and it's almost just that kindness to yourself. And I remember your TED talks, you said, there was a moment when I realised I actually could be kind to myself. I don't have to be so mean. And it's so interesting that, again, that seems like a big revelation.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it is interesting. It's like, where does it come from? I mean, maybe it's because you had someone when you're younger who wasn't that kind to yourself, or something that really stuck with me actually is I remember seeing once your parents' outer dialogue becomes your inner dialogue. So for example, if you grow up with parents who maybe don't have much confidence or who don't talk very kindly about themselves, you internalize that and that's the way you talk to yourself. So obviously there's so many different things that can come from. But yeah, I love the fact that it was almost just so simply put, you can actually just talk to yourself more kindly.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's just acknowledging, and when you have that, and we all do, and I still do, and none of us are perfect, we're all works in progress. But when something goes, Em, you didn't do that, you haven't, I'm like, okay. The thing that I have learned is then I can go, okay, so where's that voice coming from? Okay, is it helpful? Is it mine? Do I need it? Or does that voice of mine need a bit of care and a bit of TLC? And again, it's the slowing down.
Yeah.
And as soon as you kind of go, oh, it's actually because I'm a bit overwhelmed, or you know what, I haven't had enough of a break today, and that's why I'm starting to beat myself, whatever it might be. But as soon as you start to give yourself that understanding that you'd give your best mates, that you give your partner, that you give your kids, suddenly it's like, oh, if I was just a bit kinder, strangely, the world might feel a bit lighter. And if it feels a bit lighter, then actually everything might be a bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a nice segue because, I mean, it goes into the point of if you just enjoy life a bit more, then maybe you'd achieve what you want to achieve faster because you're doing it in such a lovely way that you're happier, you're healthier, because you don't have the anxiety and stress that you're piling on yourself, and you interact with people better because you can actually focus on them rather than focus on kind of barrage, with horrible comments. And that goes into, again, what we touched on before this, where in a workplace and in people within leadership positions, actually, if you brought joy and fun into the world of adults, and maybe you'd have more productive workforces, and maybe you would actually have better outcomes and be more successful, but also actually just make sure everyone enjoys life a bit more.
I mean, this is the thing, right? You know, I truly believe that half the reason that we have so many mental health challenges at the moment is because we don't prioritise joy and play enough. I truly, truly believe it. And I'm a practitioner, so I am not the person that's going to come with loads of stats. But from my practice of having been doing this kind of work for 20 years, what shifts when people allow themselves to have moments of play. Now, I'm not suggesting that play suddenly means that all of the hard things of life fall away. I'm not suggesting that at all. But when we allow ourselves to play is to be human, right? And when we're really human, and when we're playing, we're really present. And when we're really present and when we're playing, we're doing an activity that lifts us up, that makes us feel joyful, right? And we play in, as I've identified, I think 12 different ways. And the thing for me is that we don't prioritize play because that's something that we do as a nice to have. And my whole, I guess, raison d'etre of me being me, you know, it's why I've got Laugh, Think, Play written on my arm and done a TED talk about it, is because actually when we prioritize play, what it does is it fuels us in a different way. And it does stuff to our body. It releases the good chemicals. It makes us feel better so that then when we are dealing with the stresses and challenges, we've topped ourselves up. And actually in a world that is so, I mean, as we're recording this in June 2025, let's be honest, the world is really polarized. It's really angry. It's really fearful. There's a lot of really genuinely crazy stuff going on. A lot of that we can't control.
Yeah.
A lot of that we can't control. But what we can control is what we're choosing to do on a day-by-day basis. And quite often I ask really smart, successful leaders, and I go, you know, when was the last time you had a moment of deep wonder? And they look at me and they're like, I don't know. I don't know. And I'm like, you were all kids, right? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, when was the last time you just paid attention to how amazing the sky is? Or a simple thing of just taking a moment and rather than just glugging down your coffee, sitting in a cafe, turning everything off and actually just celebrating the taste of it and going, oh, this is nice. It doesn't have to be deep and meaningful. It doesn't have to take hours. Or just that thing of going, you know what makes me laugh is watching a cat video or a dog video. And I'm going to let myself watch that for 5 minutes, but with no guilt.
Yeah.
And those are the moments because those are as true as all the hardships. And yeah, you know, there is a whole load of evidence that if people want to Google, they can. That if you play more, you will be happier, you'll be less stressed, you'll enjoy more, and teams will be more productive. But, you know, like I said, I'm not the statistician.
Yeah.
I'm the practitioner.
Yeah. And I guess you've seen it firsthand, which is more powerful. And actually, you'd love my twin, because I have a twin.
Okay, cool.
And she gets really stressed in exam time. She's someone who puts so much pressure on herself.
Okay.
And then she started doing this thing in university where she would have dance parties by herself.
Amazing.
So she just puts music on, have a dance, feel 10 times better, get back to work. And she now lives with me in London.
Amazing.
And she still does this. And she says to me the other day, you and Daniel, my other housemate, you're really underutilising the fact that if I'm in a bad mood, all you need to do is put music on, have a dance party with me, and I'll be absolutely fine.
I have given you the solution, people. This is what it is. But isn't it so weird? Because during COVID, you know, businesses in particular were like, oh, everybody, mental health, quick, dance breaks, play games, do this. I've never been so busy as I was during COVID. Because people are like, everybody is so boring. And now COVID is over. It's like everyone's like, welcome to the Zoom call.
Yeah.
And it's like, hello, we're still human. Shall we carry on doing that? And you wonder why people are disengaged, and you wonder why there's so many challenges across every sector about mental health. And it's like, because we're not prioritising the stuff that can help us feel better. And I mean, your sister, she's got it right. It's like, bang on the music, go do that. And especially if you move, I mean, as mammals, you know, it's like Taylor Swift, you know, with Shake It Out, right? That song. We are, you know, we're a mammal. And when we've had something really bad, dance is the quickest way to change our state. Now, you might be the worst dancer in the world, but you can still go and dance in your kitchen like no one's looking. And the thing is you will actually move stuff. So when you're feeling really, put on a song and move, you cannot help because your body will release all these chemicals. It's play.
Yeah.
It's play.
Yeah. And it's so funny because once you know that, obviously it is just a tool and you sometimes have to force yourself to do it.
Yeah.
But I love even what you were saying about just sitting and taking time to enjoy your coffee. And, you know, I walk to work and it's lovely. I walk over London Bridge.
Nice.
And it's sometimes, you know, you're kind of just thinking about the day, you're super busy. And other days I'll think, I'm actually really lucky that I get to walk over this bridge right now, and
Right.
there's a sunset,
And people spend like so much money to come to London,
Yeah.
and they get all of the people like, I must get there, I'm on my phone, I must make sure. And I'm like, just put your phone down and maybe just pay attention.
Yeah.
You know, because when we engage and when we're really human, actually, you know what, just that engagement with somebody in the coffee shop and going, hey, how was your day? They'll stop and they'll be like, you know what, it was good. And even in London, we can talk to each other. It's all right. Maybe not on the tube, though. That'd be one step too far, kids. Yeah, you know, people are like, no, too weird.
Yeah, I'd love to know, obviously, when you are coaching people in leadership positions, what is something that you find breaks through to them, or what do you think it is that they're craving? You know, maybe like an anecdote or something, that a pattern that you see amongst them where you think, this again.
If there is something that I see with 98% of the leaders that I've worked with, it's that they go, I haven't got any time. I am back to back. I haven't got any time. And when they're working with me, they're at a really quite senior level. You know, we're sort of talking director level up by the time people get to play with me in that way. And I'm like, and who's in charge of your diaries? And they're like, I am. And what I find is that so many people get on that thing of being so busy. They're on that treadmill of being really busy. So they get up, they check their emails, they're on it. Straight away, they're doing stuff. And it's like, okay. And they don't ever take a beat just to go, okay, in my day, how do I want to be showing up? Where are my little breaks? And so one of the main things that I help people do, and genuinely, it is still revolutionary to a lot of really smart people. I'm like, start of your day, have a 5-minute meeting with yourself, take a breath, look at your meetings and go, how do I want to show up in all of them? And then as you're doing that, what every time always happens, people go, oh, I don't even need to be in that meeting, especially in big corporations I'm talking here, because people just put other people's things in their diaries and everything else like that. And they're like, I have some time. And then within that, they also then find some time to breathe. And as soon as you find time to breathe, you're grounded, and then you can choose how you want to show up. And then because they're choosing how they want to show up, they can bring the levity, they can then bring the joy, they can go, actually, how do I want my team, this client meeting, how do they all want to feel? As opposed to just being must crack on, must do it really busy. And I think that plus also just allowing and really prioritizing and going, right, have some time in your diary, which is about you thinking and turning everything off and having some time in your diary where it's about self-care. So the crazy thing is that a lot of my time when I first start working with people is just a really practical thing of going, just take back time, take and become in charge. You know, loads of us, it doesn't matter how senior you are, I think, even when you're starting out, I think we can all get so consumed with our diaries, and then we don't actually think, well, actually I can create and I can consciously craft the rest of my life around it.
Yeah.
And that for me, I think, is one of the biggest gifts I give lots of people. You know, it's colour code your diary. I've got this whole thing about rainbow diary and, you know, make sure there's time for fun, make sure there's time for self-care, exercise. Put it in your diary because you will look at it. And if I don't use my rainbow diary, stuff drops. I don't get time with my boy. I don't get date nights with my missus. And actually, that's the stuff that fuels us. You know?
And I love that method, or that concept, the rainbow diary. Obviously, I heard you talk about it, and I thought it was really powerful. So perhaps we can talk a bit more about that, where I think it's also about taking care of yourself as well. So if these execs, directors, whatever position they are, actually thought, you know, I'm actually just as important as that meeting, and they treated it like an important client, instantly there'd be time, you know?
Yeah, of course.
So,
of course. And it's that thing. So the rainbow diary is really simple. And it's quite ironic coming from a gay woman, the fact I call it a rainbow diary, but it just works. I like 7 colours, right? But it was that thing. And truthfully, I got a bollocking from my friends. It's going back, you know, maybe 15 years. And because I love what I do, I was just working all the time, like working. And so I was like, okay, I have a choice. I work for myself. I'm an entrepreneur. And I was like, I want to consciously curate my life, right? I want to consciously think about it, because this isn't a rehearsal. I won't get today back. And I want to know that I'm living the full life completely imperfectly. And so at the start of my week, what I do is I kind of go, okay, have I got my 7 colours in my diary? Now, sometimes I'm really busy. Sometimes I'm travelling and I've got my tour of my show coming in September. But if I don't take that beat to go, okay, here's my 7 colours. Okay, have I got my play day with my boy? Have I got my date nights with my woman? Have I got my friends and family? And sometimes I might not be able to see a friend and family, which is red. But then the following week, I'll make sure that that's in my diary. Have I got time for fun and creativity? Because if I haven't, that's not going to happen because I'm too busy doing my business work and stuff. Yeah. So next week, for example, my whole week is, what colour is it? Is yellow, which is my creative week. So every, you sort of say, oh, how do you do, all these different things? And lots of people go, oh, but Em, how are you running 2 different businesses and creative? And I'm like, because I create my diary, I create my space. And, when I look at this weekend coming up, I'm about to go to the Isle of Wight Festival, 2 of my oldest friends, a couple of our kids and stuff. And it was in my diary, bright red. Okay, and here's my friend's time. And it's the stuff that I look forward to. Yeah. And all of us, it doesn't matter whether you've just starting out your career, because that's a different driver, right? You're like, got to get on it, got to be successful, got to prove myself, got to work, got to do all of that. But you can only do that if you're also looking after yourself and having self-care. And also, you're never going to get your 20s and your 30s back. So it's like, enjoy them. Yeah. Before you've got all the responsibilities, before you choose that adult, the even more adult of the adult, Yeah. And it's like, you can also find the time for the fun stuff. Because otherwise, if you're just working, suddenly before you know it, you'll be like as old as me. And you'll be like, hang on a minute, I'm just working now, I'm 46 and a half. Yes, I still use 46 and a half. My son is like, can you stop with the half? No, I can't. Actually, I'm not actually 46 and a half now. I'm 46 and 3/4. I have just aged myself by 3 months on this podcast. What are you doing? You're the best interviewer ever till that moment.
I think that is so lovely though, because I'm going to start using this phrase, it's not rehearsal. Yeah. Because every time you say that, it's like almost like a good slap in the face. Yeah. Where it kind of shocks you and think, oh my
Don't
goodness.
Don't wait. Like the amount of people that I've met who are in their 50s and 60s and they're like, oh, I was just waiting until I made enough money, or I was waiting until I did this. And it's like life is too short. I met this woman and she was really senior at a big consultancy firm. And she just got married. She was 32. She talks about this publicly. And just got married, 32. 2 days after getting married, her husband had a heart attack and died.
Oh my gosh.
And she just went, obviously, I had the worst year of my life after that. And she said, but my word, the thing that it has done for me is that I am not going to take a day for granted. And on the days that I feel sad and I'll allow myself to feel sad. It's not about diminishing harder emotions. It's not about that. But it's about consciously going, okay, I want to travel. I want to set up my own business, set it up. I want to have a big job, get a big job. It's like, we only get this one chance. If you want to wear the bright colour trainers, wear the bright colour trainers. If you want to do whatever you want to do, and if that includes, I want to just have a really simple life and work in a coffee shop, and actually I have no desire to be an entrepreneur, podcaster, or out there in the world, then awesome, but do it. Yeah. And don't do what anybody else tells you to do. Do the stuff that makes your heart sing, but do it and don't wait for it, because trust me, I have met so many people that are in their 50s and their 60s who outwardly have made it. They've got all the money. They've got all of the success and the track record selling businesses, and they are miserable because they haven't lived the life that actually made them happy.
Yeah. I think that's the scariest thing, isn't it? That's everyone's biggest fear, is reaching that moment that you thought was going to make you happy and not, and thinking, I've just wasted all this time. Yeah. Working towards a goal that I thought would get me something that it didn't. Yeah. And it's so funny because I think it's actually the moments that you mentioned, enjoying the coffee, like being present with friends, making time with the sun, going to Isle of Wight Festival, noticing the view over London Bridge. Those tiny things is what makes you have a happy life. Right. It's not the big moments. It's these tiny little things. And it's a practice. I always find when I'm practicing more gratitude, it snowballs. Yeah. I'll just randomly start being grateful for things because it's on my mind. I'm looking out for things. Yeah. And so obviously the more you practice it, the easier it becomes.
And you notice it. And then the more you practice kindness to yourself, but also to others, the more you notice it, the more it comes back. And you're like, oh, okay, this world is okay. And then you can walk around and be that person. And then on the days when you're having not such a great day, you're better resourced, so your sad moments become less, or they don't stay for as long because you've built up more of a reserve of the other side of truth, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I would love to talk to you about your big mission.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think not only do you do kind of so many amazing things, but you're also someone who's clearly driven by the want to change the world in a really positive way.
Yeah.
And firstly, I think my favourite topic in the world, and my friends will agree with this and kind of grunt with sometimes frustration, because all I want to talk about is like people's goals and dreams and, you know, what lights you up.
Yeah.
So Hayes talked to me about where this mission came from, what the big mission is.
Yeah. So for me, and I think I realised this about 3 years ago, I want at least 1 million adults to laugh more, think more and play more, and think more with kindness and play more. And this really struck me that this was why I'm here as Em Stroud. And I think it's amazing that the world is starting to wake up to why play is really important for kids. I think it's brilliant. The UN have just had their second International Day of Play on June the 11th. That is super important, and it's that players are right for every kid. Completely agree. The challenge with that, and for me, the reason I want adults, is that if we as adults aren't doing it, the kids will see us stopping playing at a certain age. So then they're like, oh, that's what we do as kids. And actually, because of all the things we've talked about, play is important for all of us. I have witnessed and I have experienced firsthand that when you laugh, you feel better. When you giggle, the world feels better. We all love a good belly laugh, but we don't prioritise it enough. The world does not think about ourselves enough with enough kindness. And play is the way that we can access creativity, collaboration, connection. We all play in different ways. And so for me, in the next 2-3 years, everything that I'm doing in terms of, doing more telly, doing my own podcast, you know, sort of raising, I guess, you know, so that more people know about me, underneath all of that, and yes, working with businesses and making the workplace better, is because in a couple of years' time, I'm saying a couple of years because I think that's realistic, I want Laugh, Think, Play to be a charity. And I want us to, in essence, work with so many people and give workshops and do things to help people remember why laughing, thinking with kindness and play is so important. And we want to be the charity that works with all of the other charities that do all the caregiving, like the Samaritans or the NHS, and basically be able to provide the way and the vehicle of like, this is how you do it. Because I worked out, in order to laugh, think and play more, there's kind of 12 treasures, right? And these are all deeply human. None of this is revolutionary, but it's the stuff we don't concentrate on. And so being able to kind of offer, you know, people that work for the Samaritans who are helping people we need to give those people some time for them to laugh and think and play so that they can carry on supporting all that kind of stuff. And for me, it's like, if there is a legacy of Em Stroud, for me, I want that to be it. I want there to be a charity that's global, that absolutely helps all of us as humans remember that these 3 things matter, and give people the ways and the workshops and the podcasts and everything, but do it from a charity perspective so that everybody can access it. And that for me was a really interesting shift, because a couple of years ago I tried to launch it as a sort of commercial entity. And even though I've had lots of business success and stuff, it just didn't quite land. And the reason it didn't land was because businesses didn't quite know where to put it. Where do we put it? Is this well-being? Is this training? Is this... But actually, the reason it didn't quite land was because I hadn't quite nailed it. And now I have. I'm like, it'll be a charity. So that everything that I'm doing is all so that I can sooner launch that as a charity, and then get, and I want to have a big kind of counter. So as more people are doing it, I want it to go down. And then when we've done 1 million, I want to do 10 million, because this is what connects us. This is how we find the joy and the light in a world that is full of dark. So that is my deep rooted, tattooed purpose.
I'm so glad that you are on this earth, to be honest.
Oh, thank you.
And just having someone who is so passionate about this and who just has this mission is so uplifting. And honestly, especially in a job I have to be on top of the news, and it's so soul crushing. And the only way you can make yourself feel better is taking life less seriously, almost decompartmentalizing and thinking about what you can do good where you are at. And it's just amazing to obviously meet people like you who decide that is a massive impact.
Yeah. This is what I do, you know.
Yeah, but and it makes me think of this video, and I'm sure you've seen it, but there's a video of someone standing at a bus stop and they are basically trying to prove how contagious laugh is.
Okay.
And they just stand there, everyone's really miserable on their way to work, heads down, on their phone, almost like angry. And it's like, what has made you so angry so early in the morning? And this person just starts laughing for absolutely no reason, hysterically laughing. And within literally a few minutes, everyone is dying of laughter. And I just think that's also how powerful it is. If you make 1 million people more joyful and laugh, it's not like it's only going to affect those 1 million people. It's going to affect every single person in their lives. You think of, you know, parents when they come home from work.
Yep.
If they actually just thought, okay, I'm going to have a bit of play, it will affect their children.
Yep.
And they'll go into school and they'll be happier. And then their friends and family and, you know, it's a ripple effect.
Yeah, completely. And, you know, just earlier today, there was this kid and she had the most infectious laugh, and she was going, and I was meeting up with a friend of mine for coffee, and she was just literally laughing. She was on her scooter and she was just going round and round as kids do, right? And all of us adults were just couldn't help but smile with her. And it's that thing, and like, you know, that's why laughter yoga is so infectious, you know, all of these things. And it's so important to do. And, you know, like when I go and, you know, I'm all about people being very successful, and I've worked with very big businesses and very smart people, but we can find the lightness in it, you know, and actually the crazy thing is if we all laugh, we're all connected. And if we're more connected, we then get on better, and then we're more human, and then actually we build better relationships. And then, you know what, we'll probably make more money if that's your driver.
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of evidence, but actually, you know, in our lives, it's like, what are we here to do? Are we here to be stressed out workhorses that then move and then are only waiting for a holiday, and then you sit and you're knackered, and then you read, and then you go back and you're like, oh, that's better. And then you go back, but there's too many emails, and it's like, I'm now exhausted, wait for my next holiday. And it's like, is that really what our life is for? Or is our life for little moments of lightness and joy, and then the balance between it all, you know? And it's not about, you know, you couldn't, you know, if I think about my show, I can't expect, and nor would I want, an audience to laugh for an hour, because we can't actually laugh for an hour. Everyone would be like, I'm exhausted, and I now think I've gone mad, and now that's a problem, and I need to go somewhere, right? But it's that thing of going, so you have to have the light and then the moments of calm, and that's the same in life. You know, we can't be laughing all the time. The world, as I've already alluded to, I get it, life can be really hard, life can be really shit. I get it, I've been there, I felt it, but what we can do is go, oh, okay, actually, but if I consciously, and it is a practice, to play is a practice. As adults, we're not taught to do this. But actually, when you get more practice, just like if you start learning to run, if you've forgotten how to run, if you've learned to run again, you know, but you know, like when you're training to run further, you train, and the more you train, the easier it becomes, right? Same with play, the more practice you get. And it doesn't mean, and I think with adults in particular, adults think, oh, but I've got to be good at it. It's like, no, you don't. I went and did pottery recently. I was rubbish at it. I didn't like it that much. I'm not going to do it again. But it was fun.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like the lightness of touch. We can't be great at everything, you know?
And this makes me laugh so much because, like, thinking about needing to be good at things, I think as adults, it's like you can't enjoy yourself if you're not good at it.
Yeah.
But I have this friend, and it goes back, you know, like with the dancing thing, you don't have to be good, but it makes you really good no matter what.
Yeah.
And I have one of my best friends still now that I met at uni. I hope she doesn't get upset about this, but she's not the best singer in the world.
Right.
But she will sing like her heart out. I remember in university, she was sat at her window singing for hours.
Yeah.
To the point where the security guard came, knocked on our door and said, the person who lives below you is complained because your singing is distracting her from studying. And honestly, we find it hysterical. But I actually think living with her, now I sing without worrying about it at all. I enjoy it. It makes me happy. I am the worst singer in the world, tone deaf. But it's about still doing these things, not because you're good at it because it feels good. Right. But it's so funny how we get so stuck in that.
Yeah, and as adults, it's like, oh, I can't sing, I don't. And it's like, go join a choir, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because the thing is it's a way of accessing joy. And if you're thinking, oh, but play, that sounds dreadful. It's like, I'm not a singer, I'm not into dance. It's like, okay, but go back and ask your younger self, what did you like to do? You know, like if you think about I don't know, 2 or 3 year olds, and we're all, you know, and you're in a nursery, all of them will be playing in different ways. So it's about working out, what does play look like for you? And it will look different. And it's like, you know, if play, you know, one of the styles, which is categorically not how I play, but one of the ways that people play is to be the organizer. And, you know, I am not an organizer. Looking at an Excel spreadsheet is not my idea of fun. It's actually my idea of hell. But when I share and when I did my research into it, people are like, oh my gosh, I love an Excel spreadsheet. I love it. Moving them around. I love making lists. It is a thing of joy. And like literally people are like, that is how I play. And I'm like, yes. Great. Not how I play, but great. I'm very pleased. But again, it's just about understanding. And again, it's about experiencing and trying new things and not getting, oh, this is how I play, or I'm good at this, so that's what I'll carry on doing. It's like, try different stuff. Allow ourselves, but that's the practice of play. And that's why, for me, the bigger mission is it's about enabling all of that and helping people find their way, because it's scary, because people as adults are like, but I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to look like, I don't want to be the one that's laughing too much at work. I don't want to look like I'm having too much fun, because people then won't think I'm good at my job. Or I don't want to look like I'm messing around. And it's like, well, actually what you're doing is allowing creativity. You're allowing ideas to flow.
Yeah, it's so true. And people will probably enjoy working with you more if you want for fun.
Yeah.
This is maybe a bit of a tricky question, but I am so intrigued by this. And I think when I meet someone who does have such a big mission and a purpose, I find it really interesting, because like you said, some people just want to work in a coffee shop, kind of like live a really like simple life, and not necessarily simple, but as in they have what they like and they want to stick to that, and that's what will bring them joy.
Yeah.
I'm always intrigued in what you think makes someone have such a passion and a mission in life. Do you think everyone has a mission? Or what do you think it is that made you so mission driven?
I don't think everybody has a mission. Because I think if everybody had a mission, I don't think anything practical would ever happen. And I think people come because of their upbringing. I think because of education. I think because of choices. I think, you know, you could meet a fisherman that lives in a village who every day goes and fishes and is far more content than someone who's a multimillionaire. I think in terms of growth, I remember it was one of those real sort of formative moments. I remember as a student, I was working in a factory and we were making tax disc holders, which don't even exist anymore because I'm that old. You know, it's all now online. And it was literally a factory, and I was a student job, and I had to go and literally just move this machine and like, and if you're not watching this and you're just listening, basically it was like moving a pillar thing down. And for about 5 minutes it was quite interesting, and then it would move on, and it was like this whole sort of very old school mechanical thing. And then I realized that that was what I was going to be doing for the whole week. And there were people there that worked there all the time. And at this point I was starting to do a bit of radio, and I was starting to do a bit of DJing and acting and stuff, and I was literally 18. And I remember talking to these 2 women. I was down in Devon, and I was like, so what else do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Blah, 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 questions. And these 2 women, they're probably about my age now. They just went, actually, I'm really happy. We love working here. And you're going to go and do whatever you want to go and do. But we love the fact that we can walk to work. We love the fact that we know we've got holidays. We love the fact we're going to have a Christmas party. And once a week, I get to choose the radio station. Then the following week, she gets to choose the radio station. And we know that we'll be home in time to pick up our kids. And we're good. And I remember meeting them, and I just was like, oh, okay. That there are different drivers, and their drivers were different to mine.
Yeah.
And they're no better, they're no worse, they're no more noble, they're not hierarchy. You know, I think us humans have a tendency of trying to gurify people or put people in a hierarchy because they seem better than, or they've hit a certain number of followers, or they've done whatever they've done. And actually, without people that are doing those kind of lives, a lot of the other things wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, as long as they're happy, then who is anybody to say that their life isn't as noble or as valuable as somebody that's like, I'm going to get 1 million people to laugh, think and play. It's like, I don't know where Alan Partridge just came from. But I just think it's this thing of just about owning your own stuff. And for me, I don't think I had a mission. You know, it's only been how old am I now? 46 and a half, 46 and 3/4 because I've aged in this podcast. It's only been in my 40s that I realised that for me, I wanted something bigger because I've realised the impact it's had on me, and it's just been my truth. Yeah. And I realised that I could carry on probably having quite a nice life being Em Stroud and impacting the people that I see, but actually it has to be bigger than me because actually I see so much darkness and I want there to be more light. And so for me, that mission, that only emerged really when I did the TED Talk. So I don't think you're kind of necessarily born with a mission. I think it's just something that may or may not emerge.
Yeah.
But as long as you're happy, you know, and as long as you're doing the thing that lights you up, then crack on.
Yeah. And actually, you could get millionaires, like you said, who are miserable, who'd probably look at these people and think, I'm so jealous that you found happiness and I haven't.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of that moment of where can I find happiness in myself? It's clearly a simple formula I'm missing.
Exactly.
So, but
it's quite often the you know, I've been lucky enough to go and sit with some unbelievably successful souls, and quite often they don't have great relationships with their kids because they weren't around, you know? And then they're like, I'm not going to get my kids again. And yet they probably in their 20s, late 20s and 30s went, I've just got to make money so that I can provide for my kids. They had the right intentions, but then they're like, oh my gosh, my kids are now older and I don't really know them. You know, so again, meet ourselves with kindness. It's like we all do our best. And I think it's just that thing of like, just take a breath and just take a moment and just be like, okay, how am I? How do I want to show up?
Yeah. If we just get stuck on this wheel and we don't give ourselves the time to actually really evaluate, if maybe some of these people took a second and thought, okay, I'm working really hard to provide for my family, provide for my kid, but maybe if I stopped working so hard, they'd actually still be okay. Yeah. And actually maybe they'd be better if I was around more.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, or maybe they're thinking, you know, I actually love what I do and I'd rather be the role model of someone who pursues a career.
Exactly.
So it swings and roundabouts. But it's so funny you talking about you as an 18-year-old and talking to these women, because that's a lesson that I had to learn, and my family kind of had to stick it to me straight in the sense that I'd be like, oh, but like, you're so good at this, why don't you try and do this, and why don't you try and like build this business and do this and da 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 da. Like, you know, not everyone wants that life. Doesn't mean like we don't want to be judged for that. We are happy where we are and we don't want to be made to feel like that's not good enough. And so it actually was a really interesting lesson to learn for me, and it kind of humbled me. And another thing that I wanted, this is actually really kind of changing topic, but, you know, thinking about the fact that you are on stage a lot of the time and you're having to relate to so many different people. Yeah. You don't know what they do, you don't know what they care about, but you're getting up doing what is many people's nightmare.
Yeah, no, I know.
How did you come to know that you could hold a room and you could relate to people? And what do you think it is that makes you able to do that?
It was when I was 16. So I was destined for a world of sport and business studies and the traditional leaver, all-girls school. That was what I was destined to do. And then I basically injured my back really badly and had to stop playing sport for 6 months. So suddenly it was like, hello, who am I? What do I do? Anyone? And then truthfully, I went along to the school play with my mate because she was going. I didn't even know there was a school play because I was so fixated on sport and that was my world. And then I ended up with the lead comedy role. And I just was like, well, this is a lot better than playing lacrosse in the absolute freezing snow. And I'm getting a round of applause. I quite like this. And my sort of 16-year-old self that really didn't like herself and felt very unloved and felt very alone suddenly was like, this is quite a nice feeling because people are clapping me and I've been pushed forward and I'm getting love and I'm getting care, and this is nice. That gave me the first moment. And I think I had natural comic timing. And I think sort of between 16 and 18, I kind of played with that whole idea of, oh, if I'm funny, I'm accepted, which was at that point was a bit of a mask. So I had that whole thing. I used this line in one of my last shows, you know, funny as a shield, how do people not see? And at that point, it really was, you know, just a way of defending myself and, you know, but humour was my way in to build relationships. And then truthfully, learning the craft. I went to university and studied theatre, and 60% of it was performance stuff. I then went to drama school for 3 years. I went to Italy. I did commedia dell'arte and was the only Italian and Spanish speaker there. So I spent 7 years training. How do you hold a stage? What does audience look like? How do you walk in? How do you do these things? And then since then, I've performed across the UK. I've been an improviser for 20 years. I've had shows where we've shown up and there's been 2 people in the audience. I've had shows where we've had 2,000 people in the audience. And that craft, and this is something that I think in a world of instant and you just jump on a bandwagon, craft and expertise and being taught and being challenged is something that we have to hold on to. I was taught by some of the most extraordinary, and still am taught by some of the most extraordinary practitioners, where they have spent their entire life becoming experts in commedia dell'arte or improvisation or comedy skills or straight acting or voice and all of those things. And so when I rock up on stage to these business things and people go, oh, how do you do that? You make it look so easy. Yeah, because I spent 20 years getting good at it. And there's skills behind it, just like this. And it's not a higher or a lower skill. It's a skill. And there's a craft behind it. And, I'm currently working with 3 amazing female entrepreneurs who are basically the only people that I'm coaching. And they understand that they want to become really good at the craft of telling their stories. And I'm like, it's not just a one-day thing. This is a practice. We'll move this bit. How do you tell your story? Crafting stories. How do you tell narratives? How do you write things? And that's the kind of expertise that I like to share. And then with speakers that are already, some are earning tens of thousands of pounds, I come in and kind of use more like a theatre director eye. And I give them, are you aware you do this? Are you aware that you do that? I mean, the show that is about to go, my show that's about to go on tour from September, it's taken 2 years to write. Next week, I'm going to finish the tweaking of the writing. I have a director, I have a musician, I have a set designer, I'll have a technician, and people go, oh my God, you just show up and then you just do the show and it's funny and you get to play and it's like that. And I'm like, yeah, 2 years. Yeah. And again, it's the craft. And I will spend 6-7 days with my director, with her going, no, Em, that's crap. Why are you doing it like that? Have you thought, move like this, try like this? So in a very long-winded answer, sorry, I went off on my little thing, but for me, it's a craft. Yes. And it's just like, to be good at anything, you have to learn from experts. And I think we're scared of saying the word experts, but actually expertise takes time and we have to trust it. Yeah.
And I think that's so refreshing to hear. And like you said, you see now, we're in instant gratification world. Yep. And also you see highlight reels. Yep. I love the fact that social media is a highlight reel. Yep. And so you see all these people amazing at things or being really successful, but you don't see how long it took, how much rejection they went through, or the embarrassment they went through. When they went up on stage and no one was there or no one really got them and they had to go back and actually swallow their ego and their pride and try again. And I think sometimes that sort of stops people from trying new things and maybe they've finally done the work to see what they want to do. Yeah. But they then don't want to be out maybe in the public eye trying something and failing at it and being embarrassed because...
And the thing is, there are also people that are doing extraordinary work that aren't in the public eye. This whole idea of what success looks like, I think is something that really deserves to be pulled apart a little bit. This whole thing of, if you haven't got 10 million followers on YouTube, you're not successful. If you haven't got this, but actually there's massive success going on in the academic world, but people might never have heard of that person, but actually the study that they've done has then led to this breakthrough that's then led to that through. And you just, again, this whole thing of slowing stuff down and understanding that success can look very different in many different ways, I think is a really important thing. And so, like we go, success might just be, you work in a coffee shop, you got a happy kid, you got a dog, and you get to go down to Margate 4 times a year. If that's success, awesome, own it. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why Margate came into my head there. I've got no idea where that particular town came from. Other seaside towns are available, kids, in the UK.
I'm actually from Bournemouth. So
are you? Okay, Bournemouth. Yeah, go to Bournemouth. There you go. Yeah, nice place. Nice place.
So I feel as though you've dropped so much wisdom. And I think I want to ask you 2 final questions. Okay. one following on from this discussion where you spoke about, we spoke about failure and, actually learning a craft and going through the failures and rejection and embarrassment to get to that moment. What do you think is the biggest failure you've had, and how did you overcome that?
I've had two that genuinely really big failures. So I've had two businesses that failed. I'm putting them as one. I've had two businesses that failed. One that was within my control and one that wasn't, but they both failed. And the one that wasn't in my control, having to let an entire team go, was genuinely one of the most horrific few months of my life. Because it's very easy when you're the business owner that your whole identity is everything about your business. And at that point, I took it that I was a failure, and I went into a very dark place of like, well, I'm the one that's messed up. I'm the one that's caused all of this. And it was brutal. And, businesses fail on a regular basis. But the key thing for learning from it was actually realizing what I'm good at, realizing what I'm not good at, and making sure that I do the stuff that's a zone of genius, and then work with or employ other people that can do the stuff that I'm not good at. That's definite learning thing from that. And the second failure one was more of a performance failure. And actually, it really taught me that it kind of cemented that not all audiences are going to love you, right? I remember one of my mentors said, if you've got 100 people in a room and 80 of them like you, you've done exceptionally well, right? And for some people, you are going to be Marmite, and that's also okay. But there was one particular gig, and I was asked to go to this gig, and I was the second person on the bill. And I did some of my last set, and it had gone down really well everywhere else. Literally met with stony wall silence. There was about 150 people in the audience. Arms were being crossed. Tutting was happening. And I was talking about being a gay mum. I was talking about being single and dating. I whizzed through every different bit of content that I could possibly imagine. Nothing. Silence. And I had never had that in my entire professional career, both doing comedy, doing impro. As a speaker, I had never not managed to engage with an audience before. And I was pulling everything out of my box, and I was like, I can't, what is it? And I actually ended my set 10 minutes early, which I've never done. And then I watched the next guy come up after me. And I was sitting and I had a beer because I was like, I don't know what has just happened. And then he got up. And it turns out that this particular audience, it was mainly based of a particular kind of South Africans. And then they had this other comedian come up, and he did what I can only describe as the most misogynistic, homophobic, racist set. And they laughed like nobody's business. But the key thing for me wasn't about them, and that's their world and that's their audience, and that's fine. But the key thing for me was, for 5 minutes as I sat there, I went into, I'm rubbish, I'm not good, those unkind voices. And then as I sat drinking my beer, I went, or maybe it just wasn't my people, and maybe there isn't something wrong with me. And I really remember, because to come off stage literally feeling like, what the hell just happened? I'd never had this. And I went into attack, but then I pulled myself out of attack and went, or maybe, just maybe. And then I witnessed him and I witnessed them, and I went, okay, they're just not my people. And that was like, that's how I can shift from failure and my own attack. And again, this was years of working on myself to go, okay, I can go into kindness. But those two things were my two biggest failures.
And I think that is such an amazing point in your career, because it's really amazing that happened when you had gained those tools to also be kind to yourself. And I think that in itself then was no longer a failure. The moment when you catch yourself being horrible and cruel and you're able to turn it around is actually probably one of the toughest things anyone can do. And the last question I wanted to ask is just going back to your 10-year-old self, when you decided it's time to be an adult way before any childhood, what advice would you give? Or what advice have you given to your younger self when you have been doing the work and you've gone back and visited that 10-year-old?
I think what I do now to my 10-year-old self is that I put an arm around her and I go, you know what, kid, you are making the right choice right now because this is how you're going to survive the next 6-7 years. And I'm sorry that that is the right choice because you will survive it. And just trust me, you will find the joy again. You will remember what it feels like to go whizzing down a hill on a bike and just reveling in that. You will remember the joy. You will find it again. And I'm sorry that you've got the next few years. And I kind of, in essence, just put my arm around her and go, you made the right call. And even though I'm sorry it was such a shitty call that you had to make, but you made the right call because I'm only here because of you having that courage.
Yeah. And in a way, I hope that that also makes you sit there and think, even from her eyes, I'm so grateful for you in the future for bringing that joy back. And, you know, sitting it and like having that moment of self-love and gratitude and thinking, I've done that for her.
Yeah.
I've brought back the joy in her life. And that's actually a really beautiful thing that I got to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and now you get to spread it.
Yeah.
So firstly, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you also for this beautiful mission where you're going to be spreading joy and making people happier, giving them more energy to be in their purpose and help other people, or just reminding them to sit, do what makes their heart sing and enjoy their coffee in the morning.
Absolutely.
Thank you.